Hello, welcome. I am Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. I am recording on my boat brainwaves, and it's a really special day for me. So I thank you for joining me for this book launch. Uh, you may remember that in 2008, I gave a TED Talk, and that TED Talk ended up being the first TED Talk to ever go viral. And I shared in that talk about how I had been a brain scientist at Harvard. And unexpectedly, I had a major hemorrhage explode in the left half of my brain. And over the course of 4 hours, through the eyes of a scientist, I watched my brain completely deteriorate to the point where I could not walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of my life. I became an infant in a woman's body. And what I learned when I lost my left hemisphere through the eyes of a scientist was what actually is going on in my right hemisphere, where I went from being the structured, organized person interacting with the external world to an experience of euphoria and bliss. And at the end of that TED Talk, I said, we have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be in the world. And in the course of a few years after that, I had literally over 300,000 people write to me and say, well, how do I do that? I want to choose to experience that euphoria. You had to have a stroke in order to have that experience, but how can I have that experience without having a stroke? And that was a real challenge for me because I got whacked out of my left hemisphere, jumped into my right hemisphere and experienced bliss and euphoria and experienced myself to be as big as the universe. And even though I could then use my right brain to recover my left brain and regain the functions and skill sets and character profiles of what goes on in the left hemisphere, I didn't have an answer to that question. So it's been over a decade, and I have been focused on trying to figure out, how do I share with other people? How can we use our left brain to experience our right brain without having a stroke? And the product has been this book, Whole Brain Living: The Anatomy of Choice and the Four Characters that Drive Our Life. And I'm very proud of this book because I truly believe that this is my purpose in life. This is the reason why I came back. And the material in here is designed to help anyone better understand what is going on inside of your left hemisphere as well as in your right hemisphere, so you actually can learn tools to step into whichever part of your brain you want and embody that character. So, Whole Brain Living: The Anatomy of Choice and the Four Characters that Drive Our Life. So, as we look at the anatomy, and I have brought for you, of course, a real human brain as well as a brain model. So, let me grab my brain model. So this is a brain model. This is the front of the brain. This is the back of the brain. It would sit inside of my head like this. And when you look at the human brain, it's clearly divided into two hemispheres. And this model is designed to come apart like so. Now, the secret for me, when I actually finally understood how to communicate with other people about what was going on inside of our brain, was I was giving a keynote at a conference, and I said, I just love presenting about the brain in this day and age because most people know so much about the brain. We're familiar with the language. So the left hemisphere is, we think, as a rational brain, and the right brain we think of as our emotional brain. But the fact of the matter is that is not true. And I shared with the audience that we actually have two amygdala and two hippocampi. And those are primary groups of cells that are a part of our limbic system, our emotional system. And there was literally an audible gasp in the room when I said that we have two amygdala. And I realized that people believed that we have a emotional hemisphere and a thinking hemisphere, but that's not true. We actually have the limbic system with the amygdala and the hippocampi in here, which will then come up and go into the cingulate gyrus. And so these are parts of the amygdala and the hippocampus, the limbic system, the emotional system of the left hemisphere. So we actually have emotional tissue in our left hemisphere, and then we have our thinking tissue in our left hemisphere. And those are different groups of cells. Now, the same is true in the right hemisphere. So in the right hemisphere, we're going to have, again, the amygdala and the hippocampus in here. It's going to then send fibers up this way and come in as the anterior cingulate gyrus, and then go deeper down and go to that amygdala and the hippocampus. So what that means is that we have two modules of cells, one in each hemisphere, for emotion. And we have groups of cells in each of our hemispheres for thinking. And they're different groups of cells. And the way that the mammalian nervous system evolves over time is that new tissue gets added on top of older tissue. So we share with other mammals the deeper tissue here of that limbic system. So monkeys will have that, dogs will have that, other mammals will have that emotional limbic tissue. But what's unique about the human brain is the addition of the thinking tissue on top. And again, that's going to be bilateral, meaning on both sides. So what this boils down to is that we have four very distinct modules of cells, groups of cells, that are unique in what they process, how they process, and what they experience. But on top of that, when each of those groups of cells is running independent of the others, it results in a character profile. It feels unique inside of our body. And we have the power to choose which of those four characters we want to embody at any time. So when I look at this brain, again, would be in my head like this. The left hemisphere comes apart, got a magnet there, left hemisphere. So I call left thinking is character 1. Left emotion is character 2. Right emotion is character 3. And right thinking is character 4. So the anatomy of choice, whole brain living, means we're using all the cells inside of our head. So you've probably heard the myth that we only use 10% of our brain cells. Well, that's simply not true. So the way that neurons work, brain cells work, is that if it's alive and it's in your head, then you're using it and it's involved in something. Now, that was that's just an old myth. So the two myths that are not real is that, first of all, we only use 10% of the cells in our head. No, if it's a cell and it's in your head and it's alive, then you're using it. And then the other thing is that the right is emotional and the left is rational. No, they both are emotional and they both are thinking. Now, it is true that the thinking tissue of our left brain is our rational brain that processes analytically information coming in from the external, but it is not true that there is only one emotional part of our brain. When you think about the brain, the other thing that's really important to understand is that the right brain is all about right here, right now. Easy to remember, right here, right now, right brain. That's all it processes. It has no experience of the past and it has no experience of the future. So on the morning of my hemorrhage, when I had that stroke happen, I lost my left hemisphere, which gave me a past and a future. So the left hemisphere is a temporal machine. It can sequence material where one thing happens before another thing happens before another thing happens. We have to have a left brain, for example, to know that we have to put our socks on before we put our shoes on. The only way that we know that is what we call linear thinking. A happens, B happens, C happens. The only way that we know that is because we have this left hemisphere ability, thinking tissue. When that got wiped out from me with the hemorrhage, all I had was the present moment of the right here, right now. So that's really important as we think about those 4 different characters, because even though each of the hemispheres is going to receive information from the external world, which is the same, it's going to process it in the right hemisphere, the right here, right now experience of emotion and thinking about the experience of the present moment. And in the left hemisphere, we're going to have the emotions from our past and our future. So fear of the future, pain from the past, and then we're going to be able to remember what we had for breakfast or what time we got up this morning or why we decided to put on the shoes that we put on this morning. The 2 hemispheres are processing similar information, but in completely different ways. Now, this structure right here is called the corpus callosum. So the corpus callosum is a structure that sends information from one hemisphere to the other or from the other hemisphere back. The bumps of the brain are called the gyri. You have very specifically named gyri, just like I do, like a superior, a middle, and an inferior temporal gyrus, bump gyrus. You never know when you need that kind of information. The lines in between are the sulci. Each of those has very specific names. The brain is very specifically organized so that, for example, language is going to be back in here. The ability to create sound and make sound will be up here. To understand will be back here. Audio, everything that you're going to be hearing in here. And then every movement that you're going to ever make is going to be by cells that are located in this gyrus. Probably a little better depiction on this side. And everything that your sensory feeling is going to be coming in on this side. And since this is the right hemisphere, then that is projecting to the right side of the body. So the brain is very specifically organized, and we know a lot about it because the cells of that cortex are 6 layers thick. And the way that different groups of cells communicate with other parts of the brain are very specific in the what kinds of information they're carrying and in how they're processing that information. So, of course, I have brought for you a real human brain, and let me put on some gloves, and we can take a look at what's going on there. Today, I'm going to use pink. So the beauty of your brain is that every ability you have because you have brain cells that are performing that function. So I can blow because I have brain cells that control those muscles and control my ability to blow air. My ability to experience vision is because I have cells in the back of my brain in the occipital region that process what I'm experiencing in vision. And anyway, I can go on and on about that. So I won't. Okay. So here we have a real human brain. I don't want to fall in the lake. So here I have a whole human brain. And you've heard of meninges and the meningitis. Meningitis is an infection that happens in the meninges. And the meninges, there are 3 of them, and they're the outer layer of the brain. And this is the dura mater, which is the outermost meninge. And then what I'm touching here is called the arachnoid. But that's, beyond anatomy that we're supposed to talk about today. But here we have a beautiful spinal cord, and this is the instrument that carries all the information. So every cell making up this brain was doing something in this person. So let me also then, and this, of course, is the spinal cord, and that's how the brain communicates with the body. So all the information from the body will be going up the spinal cord in these beautiful nerve roots. Look at these beautiful nerve roots, and will carry information in, and then also will carry information down. So the spinal cord is like a highway for information transfer, and each of the different types of stimulation, sensory information coming in like light touch or pressure or pain, will all transfer in on their own specific nerve roots and highways. So we're very well organized. So that's our beautiful brain with two limbic systems and two thinking modules of cells. So as we think about the four modules of cells, the four characters, I'm going to walk you through and share with you some information about each of those modules of cells and the character profile that comes up. And I know that you might want to take some notes. I'm going to encourage you to get a sheet of paper and divide that sheet of paper into 4 columns. And so that you can go character 1, character 2, character 3, character 4. Again, as we're looking at the brain tissue, we're going to go character 1, left thinking, character 2, left emotion, character 3, right emotion, this tissue here, and then the anterior cingulate and the cingulate, and then character 4 is that thinking tissue. Now, this is your brain, and the beauty about this material is that this is whole brain living, and we do have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be in the world. So this is going to be kind of like, how do I get there? As we think about the left thinking brain, we know a lot of things about that tissue. For character 1, left thinking, when you just look at the tissue, we know that right up in this region is a group of cells that define the boundaries of where you begin and where you end. Did you ever wonder how you know that this is you, but these are not you? Those are something that you add to your face, even though you may experience having them on your face all day long. Your brain knows and defines the boundaries of where you begin and where you end in space because of a group of cells that specifically perform that function. They essentially create a holographic image of yourself, and it's necessary. We have to know what is our body and what is not our body. And that's because we are made up of atoms and molecules. That's what we are. And everything else is also made up of atoms and molecules. And the trees behind me and the water behind me, all the air, atoms and molecules. So in order for me to know that what is me and what is not is a group of cells. Now, what that means is that if I don't have those cells performing that function, then I have absolutely no perception of where I begin and where I end. So if you wipe out your left hemisphere, and if you wipe out that orientation association area, the right brain has no perception of definition of self. It is as big as the universe. It is alive, it is present, it is conscious, it is aware of itself as big as the universe. There is no delineation between the atoms and molecules making up me and making up my glasses or making up the clouds in the sky. So in order for me to define the boundaries of where I begin and end, I have to have that left thinking tissue. I know I got a ratty finger. Sorry about that. Oh, well. So as we go on, so also in this center is the cells that allow us to create language. And language is my ability to speak. So I can create sound. Dog. Dog is a sound. And so I create the sound dog, and I do that in this area. And then our brain is able to then place meaning on the sound dog because of other cells in that left hemisphere. So character one has language, and it defines the boundaries of where we begin and where we end. It's amazing. Without that, we have no language. The right hemisphere does not think in language. It thinks in pictures. It's essentially running a video about what's going on. So here we have the words, and here we have the video. Very different, but they're communicating with one another, so that this is how we can detect, using our right hemisphere, whether our left hemisphere is speaking the truth. It's kind of our truth detector. So also in that hemisphere, because we have language, part of language is the ability for me to say, I am, I exist, I am an individual, I am Jill Bolte Taylor, I live on a boat called Brainwaves, I love being on the water, I have a phone and I have a phone number. So everything that has to do with me and I is created in that left hemisphere. So the left hemisphere has what we call my ego center. And everything is oriented, all the information coming in is organized around me. I am this. This is the mass that makes me up. This is how I separate myself from all that is. I have language, so I can communicate in the external world. So I perceive myself as being separate from the external world and separate from you. And then I organize all my information about I. Now, the other thing the left hemisphere is about is it likes to organize all information in the external world. Doesn't just organize information about me and I, it organizes everything, and it likes everything to be in order, and it categorizes and it sorts things, and it thinks methodically, and it thinks sequentially, and it's good at detecting this part and that part and fitting parts together, so it's good mechanically. So this is that character one is what we would typically think about our alpha personality. It's going to be our A-type personality in the world. It likes to organize, and it likes to control, and it likes to control everything. It likes to control people, places, and things. And it feels safe when it is controlling and organizing people, places, and things. So character one is our organizer, and it is our identity. So it is our ego, and it has language, and it likes to be the boss. So do you know that part of yourself? My guess is that in our society, you're pretty familiar with your character one. Our character one is how we create order in the world. And it is how we really control our environment enough so that we can have some sanity. If you like to put your stapler back where the stapler belongs, you're using your character one. If you're good at being punctual, you're good with your character one. So that's your character one. Hopefully you can identify that part of yourself. It's going to be the left thinking tissue, which is our rational brain. It analyzes, it critically analyzes. That doesn't mean you're being critical. That means you are critically analyzing what is a this and what is a that. And as soon as you have a this and a that, then you can organize details, and more details about those details. So that's your character one. When you think about your character one, think about who likes your character one? Who doesn't get along with your character one? as I think about my character one, my friends, some get along really well with my character one, and some, they prefer a different character, and that's fine. And I encourage each of us as we go along to give a name to your characters, because they're real inside of us, and each of them is a specific group of cells, and it has an identity, and it has a skill set, and it has natural characteristics, and it has its own way of holding our body, has our own inflection of voice. It just, they're each very unique to the different groups of cells. So when I'm being my character one, I have my glasses on, I have my earrings in, I'm doing something official like talking to you and teaching. My teaching mode is details, more details about those details. Today, the details are of the 4 characters. So this is pretty much my character one. My character one, I call her Helen. I call her Helen. She's hell on wheels. She gets it done. She's busy. She's organized. She runs my life. She goes to the office. Where does your character one hang out? My character one hangs out in the office. She gets stuff done. She's wonderful. I absolutely lost her with my hemorrhage, and then she came back online after 8 years of me rehabilitating my brain, using my right brain in order to create these circuits to get my circuits in my left brain to run again. I got my language back. I got my identity, my Jill Bolte Taylor back. I gained the boundaries of where I begin and where I end. I had lost all of that. And I cannot be a functional human being. We cannot be functional human beings in the world without that character. But when that character came back online, it actually came on as a character. And I know that I hold my body different. I speak, my voice, the intonation and inflection of my voice is different. I'm intense. My friends can call me on the phone, and as soon as Helen answers the phone, they know whether or not they want to speak to Helen. Usually they'll say, "Hi, Helen." Because they can tell too. Maybe you could call us back at the end of the day. And it's like, yeah, I'll make a note. And that's what Helen does. And then one of my other characters will call back at the end of the day. So Helen is a very specific character. I encourage you to pick a name that is very specific to your character one. Who is that inside of your brain? It's got an identity. Give it a name. Refer to it. Feel what that feels like inside of your body. Think about who does get along with that part of you, who likes to hang out with your character one, or does your character one prefer to not hang out with other people because they want to, get it done. This is the part of our brain that organizes our lives. So we have to have that. Most of us know that part of ourselves. And but give it a name and recognize that identity. Character number 2 is the left emotion. So the left emotion is going to be, again, this tissue down here, and then the cingulate gyrus, and a little bit of prefrontal there. So the left emotion is going to be the emotion of our past. You have to have a left hemisphere, as I said before, in order to have a past experience and a future experience, because the right brain is right here, right now. And so in order to have any pain, all of our pain from the past is located in those cells. And it's also our emotional tissue, our character 2 in the left brain and our character 3 in the right brain, okay, which are our emotion. And these are the cells that are our fight or flight. Sorry, my brain fell apart. Oh, how does this brain go back together? Okay, anyway, I've almost got you here. The beauty of the brain model. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So as we come back in here, having a moment. Good. Okay. Sorry about that. As we come back in here, the cells of the emotion never mature. They never mature because when we're born, our emotional cells, the limbic cells, the cells of the limbic system, the cell bodies are not just in position in each, the character 2 and the character 3. That is our fight, flight, alarm, alarm, alert, alert, save my life circuitry. The thinking tissue, these cells of the cerebral cortex of the thinking in each hemisphere, the cells or bodies are in position, but the connections are not made between them. So the cells of our emotional system never mature. So little character 2 is going to be all of our pain from the past that can never mature. And that is why I have the capacity as an adult to throw a temper tantrum like a 2-year-old, because I still have that tissue. And that's the part of my emotion that gets triggered and goes into alarm, alarm, alert, alert. So in the left hemisphere, that information is being processed from my past. Now, when I experienced my stroke and I lost my left hemisphere, I still retained my right hemisphere of the present moment. And I could experience emotion and thinking in the way that the right hemisphere does it, very different from the way that the left hemisphere does it. So what that meant was when I lost that emotional tissue, I lost all my pain from the past. And I also lost the character, my little pained little Jill. So I give this tissue a new name and I call it Abby. And I call my character 2, pain from the past, Abby, because Abby stands as short for abandoned. And I believe that the moment that I was born, think about what it was probably like inside of your mother's womb. And inside of our mother's womb, it is warm. It's a fluid environment. We are symbiotic in relationship to our mother's body. We have known nothing other than this experience. When that little zygote, that original cell, was conceived, in that moment, when the DNA from mom joined with the DNA from dad, they create a single cell. And that zygote cell then multiplied the DNA and then repackaged itself, multiplied the DNA and then repackaged itself at a rate of up to 250,000 new duplications per second, not per minute, but per second. So the consciousness of that egg cell and that sperm cell, as it grew and multiplied and multiplied and multiplied, it knew nothing other than the symbiotic relationship in the womb. And from the moment we're born, when we are removed from that liquid environment where we are actually experiencing liquid in our lungs, all of a sudden we are triggering breathing oxygen, breathing air, breathing a gas. I mean, how shocking is this to our biological system? And all of a sudden we're bombarded with sounds, which are no longer muted by the womb. We're bombarded by lights. We're being handled. We're being poked. We're being prodded. Oh my gosh, imagine what all that's like for what it's like to come out of the womb. So to me, that's that moment of feeling abandoned. And that is the consciousness upon which this character 2 evolves. And the beauty, the magnificence of what this tissue does is this tissue of our character 2 actually takes information from that's coming in through our sensory systems and immediately compares it to any past experience we've ever had. And simply by doing that, what that means is that the consciousness of the present moment, we step out of the consciousness of the present moment into a different consciousness that is comparing the present moment to anything we've experienced in the past. And that's how that left hemisphere begins its process of gaining a linearity over time. So it's amazing. It's amazing biological feat performed by our little character two. And our little character two, as a result, is alarm, alarm, alert, alert if something comes in that doesn't feel familiar. That our emotional system likes some things that are familiar. So if we see something that doesn't feel familiar, then it's alarm, alarm, alert, alert. I don't feel safe. You don't look like me. You don't sound like me. You don't speak my language. The temperature is not comfortable. I'm in nature and I'm used to a city, or I'm in the city. I'm used to nature. Whatever it is that is not familiar, the character two is always looking for a reason to push away and say, no, I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't want anything to do with it. It's also our most vulnerable pain, because this is the part of ourselves that is the depth of our emotions and our complex emotions. So think about certain emotions that we have had in the past. If I'm going to feel resentment, I am resentful about something that happened in the past. So that's going to be character two. If I feel guilty, I feel guilty about something that has happened in the past. If I feel shame over something that has happened in the past. So we have all of this information processing about all the stuff from my past, and how do I feel about that? And then all my fears about the future. So little Abby is a wonderful, wonderful part of our character, because it's our lifesaver. This is the part of our brain that is looking for a reason. It's looking with discretion, and it is looking for a reason to say no and to push away. That's not safe. So it's also going to be the core of our vulnerability. It's also going to be the core of our craving, because we can actually take this brain apart and you can see this tissue inside of here, and inside of there is what we call the insular cortex. And that's the portion of our brain that has craving. So if we manage with any problems with addiction, whether we're addicted to drugs or an alcohol or a technology or whatever it is that we're just some people are addicted to movement, whatever it is that you crave, that's what's going on inside of that little character too. And so one of the things about that little character too, my Abby, you give it a name. Give it a name that matches you. It's the part that's going to worry. It's the part that's going to yell and scream and get big and mean and ugly and loud if it's triggered, or it's going to run like the wind in order to get away from a threat. But it's an alarm, alarm, alert, alert. And it's designed to save our life. So I have to admit that when Abby comes online, she's not the most pleasant part of me, and she's extremely powerful. But when I get to know Abby and I get to know my other characters, then we'll talk about at the end how these four characters can work together in order to create a more level form of sanity. And then I have the power to choose moment by moment which of these four characters I run at any time. So think about your little character too. I encourage you to give it a name. I encourage you to think about who's really good at triggering your little Abby. When your little Abby is triggered, when your little character too is triggered, who is good at soothing and bringing comfort to that part of you? So that's character one and character two in the left brain. So character three is going to be the emotion of the present moment. So it's going to be the comparable emotional tissue that's going to come up in amygdala and hippocampus, and then it's going to come up into the cingulate gyrus and part of the prefrontal cortex. This is the right here, right now experience of the present moment. What does it feel like? Character three, what does it feel like to be in the present moment? Right here, right now, right here, right now. Oh my gosh, look at where I live. I'm open and I'm expansive and I'm content and I'm playful, and it's I'm a go, go, go. And I love an adrenaline rush. So I call my little character three Pigpen, because right here, right now is a perfect moment. Imagine life without the imagination of what you're thinking about the past or what your emotions are about the past. Bring your mind to the present moment. Look around, use your senses, use your eyes, and listen. I'm outside. You can probably hear the birds. Sometimes there's a little bit of drizzle on the roof above me. You might hear the rain. You might hear a fish jump every now and again. You might see a turtle or some other creature go by in the water. It's the experience of the present moment. And what do I want to do in the present moment? Well, I might want to go swimming, or I might want to go fishing, or I might want to go, whatever it is I want to go, I want to do, I'm in my body. And I'm experiencing, what does it feel like to be inside of my body and to be active or to be engaged in the present moment? So I call my little character 3, my right emotional character, I call her Pigpen. Do you remember the Charles Schulz cartoon with Charlie Brown and Lucy and all the different characters, Peanuts? Do you remember Pigpen? Pigpen's this little character that is walking around in a dust storm. And what I love about Pigpen is Pigpen is in a dust storm. You never know what Pigpen's going to be making a mess doing next. And that's kind of how my Pigpen is. Pigpen comes out and plays, and it's creative, and there's no judgment, because all the judgment happens in that left hemisphere, the critically analyzing left hemisphere. You get rid of critical analysis and all you have is a mess. It's like chaos at its finest, and there's no right and wrong or good or bad, and it's just let's be and let's do and let's have a good time, and it's exciting and fun, and you know that you probably know that part of yourself. Do you know that part of yourself? So think about that part of yourself. You know, it's the creative, because when there's no judgment, the first step of the creative process is chaos. So here we have chaos at its finest, and it's fun. And what does it feel like? What does it feel like in my body when I'm swimming in the water? What does it feel like in my body when I'm playing tennis? What does it feel like in my body when I'm fishing or when I catch that fish? The excitement, the exhilaration. What does it feel like when you go to a ball game and all the excitement of the ball games, and it's like it's wild and it's exciting and interesting and fun. This part of ourself is a very specific character. So it is emotion of the present moment, but that emotion is more experiential, not just emotion. So that's character 3. Who hangs out with your Pigpen? Give yours a name. What's a good name for your character 3? Who hangs out with it? Who likes to play? Who doesn't get along very well when your character 3 comes out? Because maybe they're a strong character 1 and they're looking at your character 3 with some judgment, saying, you know, you spent a lot of time making a mess, and you're kind of like wasting time, and judgment. So think about now the interplay just inside of your own brain. How does your character 1 think about your character 3? How does your character 3 manage your own character 2? And then, of course, we have a character 4. And the character 4 is right here, right now thinking. And the right here, right now thinking is when you don't have anything in the past to worry about, or you don't have any fear of the future to worry about, you know, right here, right now is pretty much a perfect moment. And this is the part of our brain that connects us with our higher consciousness. And it doesn't have the boundaries of where we begin and where we end that the left hemisphere has. So the right hemisphere is as big as the universe. It's the atoms and the molecules, and it's a consciousness that is pure and innocent, and it is supportive, and it is loving, and it is the part of our consciousness that exists in every cell inside of our body. When you consider that that single zygote cell evolved itself at a rate of 250,000 new cells per second, the consciousness of each of those cells is the same as the consciousness of the universe. There is no beginning and there is no end without that group of cells defining the boundaries of where you begin and where you end. So to the character 4, this is our part of our brain that is as big as the universe. It is boundless. It is free. It is beautiful. And it is filled with a sense of deep, deep gratitude. And because of that, it's grateful for its life, because life itself is this incredible masterpiece of these beautiful 50 trillion molecular geniuses that bring themselves as human life. And oh my gosh, my right character 4 is thrilled that I have eyes that I can see, I can filter light, I have sound that I can hear and filter as understanding, and I can use language to speak, and I can hear the sound, I can see the light, I can make the sound. I have a body that allows me to move about in the world. I have digits that allow me to specifically manipulate the external world. Oh my gosh, I'm alive. And when we shift into the consciousness of our character 4, that is the gratitude of, oh my gosh, I am alive. And when I hook into that, I am as big as the universe, and there is no boundary between me and my consciousness and my experience of an infinite being, a cosmic consciousness, call that God, call that Allah, call that whatever works for your form of consciousness and your left brain structure. If there's a religion that defines what you call that expansive consciousness, but it is our right hemisphere, our right character 4, that allows us through an experience of prayer or an experience of meditation or an experience of being in nature and just wandering about, but consciously filling with gratitude and feeling our connection. So we do have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be. We do have the power to choose which of these 4 characters we want to embody. So my character 4, she is nurturing, she is supportive, she is loving, she is open, she is expansive, she is connected to all that is, and she is good with whatever is, because what is. And it's the left hemisphere that can then come in and say, well, I had a preconceived notion about how I wanted this to go, and I thought it'd be nice if there was a little bit more sunshine today, or I wanted this, or I wanted that. Now I don't have it the way that I want it, and that little character 2's coming on going, so I'm not happy. And it's like, so character 4 is coming in and saying, oh, sweet little character 2, we gotcha. I'm here. We're 4 of us inside of this head. We have the ability to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be in the world. We have the power to have whole brain living. And I am a firm believer that whole brain living is the ultimate goal of what we are going to accomplish as we evolve as humanity. And essentially what we're doing is we are working the kinks out between the newly added on thinking tissue in the left hemisphere with the character 2 emotional tissue below. Same thing, character 4 thinking tissue in the right brain with the emotional tissue below. We're working out kinks between and communication between our character 1 thinking and our character 4 thinking in our 2 different hemispheres, and the kinks between our 2 emotional systems, our character 2 in the left hemisphere and our character 3 in the right hemisphere. We have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be in the world. How do we do that? First, we know who those 4 characters are. Think about your 4 characters, get to know your 4 characters, and then do something that I call the brain huddle. And the brain huddle is when we have all 4 characters communicating with one another. What's a huddle? Any team has a huddle. This 4 characters, that's our brain team, and they can have a brain huddle. And I call it a brain huddle because I go BRAIN. Of course I do. And that makes it easy for you and me to remember when we need that. So, what is the brain huddle? B stands for breath. Let's say all of a sudden something happens. Let's say I see a snake go by right back there, right? You see a snake go by and you go, oh my God, there's a snake there. And yes, there are snakes here. And yes, they are poisonous. And yes, I have to concern about that. So we see a snake go by and my little character too goes, oh my gosh, it's a snake and it's poisonous. Oh my God, alarm, alarm, alert, alert. I'm not happy. I'm not healthy. I'm not safe. I'm not safe. Alarm. You know what that feels like. Well, I don't like snakes. Well, I like snakes, but I don't want to have an encounter with one. Let's put it that way. So this little part of me may be terrified of snakes. So it goes alarm, alarm, alert, alert. It gets loud, loud. Adrenaline starts running through my body. And a secret is that from the moment adrenaline or alarm, alarm, alert, alert, as soon as you're emotionally triggered, from the moment you think a thought to the emotion that it stimulates, oh my God, there's a snake. Oh my gosh, there's a snake emotion. I have a physiological response of fear. Noradrenaline gets dumped into my bloodstream from my brain. It floods through my body. It flushes out of my body in less than 90 seconds. So theoretically, from the moment I think a thought, it stimulates an emotion. That chemical runs through me, flushes out of me, takes less than 90 seconds. Now, I don't know about you, but I can freak out that there's a snake back there for a whole lot longer than 90 seconds. And I can do that because my little character two keeps rethinking the feeling. I keep having the new thought, oh my gosh, there's a snake over there somewhere. My emotional system is going, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. I'm not happy. I don't feel safe. Adrenaline, adrenaline, alert, alert, alarm, alarm, not safe, not safe. And I'm repeating the thought. I'm repeating the cellular loop. Every ability we have because we have brain cells that are performing that function. So I keep rethinking the thought. There's a snake. I start feeling, oh, there's a snake. And then I have a physiological response over and over and over again. However, I have 3 other characters inside of my head. And I can look at the big picture and I can think to myself, you know, I'm way up here. I'm like 20 feet away from that snake. That snake isn't getting up here. I'm okay. So character 1 can come in because that's what it does. It says character 1 is going to come in and fix it. It's a fix it system, right? It's organizing everything. So it's going to look around and say, what do I have to do to make you safe, little character 2? And little character 2 is going to say, okay, okay, okay. Character 4 is going to come in and soothe and say, it's okay. We've seen snakes before. We're not in immediate danger. And character 3 says, come on, let's go look at it. Can we look at it and see what kind? Let's go look at it because it wants to go on the adventure. So the 4 characters are constantly having a conversation inside of our brain. At any moment in time, we can call a brain huddle and bring each of those characters into the experience. So we can have in the brain huddle, we have B, breath. Always go to the breath. There's nothing more powerful in our body that allows us to bring our brain to the present moment than our breath. So, and I actually like to touch myself on my forehead using my left hand because it's my right brain and I want to get into my right brain and I can breathe and I can feel that and and then I can feel my chest exhale and I can bring it in and I can blow it out. And immediately do that a few times and think about the present moment. Look around, look at movement. Don't look for detail. Feel the air, big picture. Allow yourself to breathe. B. R stands for recognize. Recognize which character is currently having a moment. Who's running your life in the moment? If you're up in the office, you'll find I'm recognizing my character 1 is working. Or I might be walking in nature. My character 4 might be experiencing love and life. My character 3 might be out playing, or my character 2 might be freaking out. So B, bring your mind to the present moment. Recognize which character's present. BR. A, appreciate the fact that I'm in my character 1, I'm in my character 2, or my 3, or my 4, but appreciate also not only which one is present then, but appreciate that I have all these others there. I have 4 characters. I can pick in this moment which of those 4 characters I want to do. So B, breathe. R, recognize which one is dominant. A, appreciate that I have all 4 of them. I, inquire. Which one might I want to have come out next? BRAI, inquire. In this moment, what's appropriate? What do I want? So let's say in the example of the snake, I'm freaking out because little Abby's going, oh my gosh, there's a snake, there's a snake. Well, I'm probably going to choose my character 3. I want to turn around and look at the thing, and I want to go get my binoculars and I want to look at it. But I could ignore it and I could just feel peaceful because I live in a peaceful, beautiful place, and it's a snake. I live where it lives. It lives here. I'm the one who's invading the space. And character 1 might want to pop in and say, I wonder what kind it is. Let's analyze it. Let's look at it and analyze it. Is it poisonous? Is it not poisonous? So it's going to start organizing the facts. And then it's going to figure out, well, where did it go? And what do I want to do? And are we safe? And all that. So N, BR, B, breathe. R, recognize which one's dominant. A, appreciate that I have all 4 of them. A, I, inquire which one might I want to do next. And then N stands for navigate. I'm going to navigate the experience. You know, if another one shows up, then I'm going to have an action. I'm going to make it's another moment. And that's the thing, is that moment by moment by moment, these characters are bouncing around inside of our head. And the only difference between what this book is going to teach us about any other book is that this helps us differentiate which group of cells inside of our brain do we want to run. And we actually do have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be. So to me, I have to say that I believe that the reason why I came back, why I didn't die that day that I had that stroke, and why I recovered is because I believe in humanity, and I believe in our ability to evolve into the best human species that we absolutely can. And I believe that the material inside of this will help you evolve your brain so that you do have the power to choose moment by moment who and how you want to be in the world. This is our ticket to freedom: whole brain living, the anatomy of choice, and the 4 characters that drive our life. And I can guarantee you that when you understand your own 4 characters and you start looking at the 4 characters in those people you love, the people in your family, your friends, your colleagues, and then we start looking at the bigger picture of humanity, you will gain so much insight into not only who you are, but so much power into who and how you want to be. We are beautiful beyond measure. And I am so proud to bring this material into the world. And I am so grateful. So from my character 1, I say thank you. Thank you for organizing your life so that you can work with this. I say to your character 2, we are all in pain, but it doesn't have to rule our lives. Character 3, let's play. Let's figure out how to bring joy into our worlds and to share that with one another. And from my character 4, I forgot to tell you her name. My character 4 name is Queen Toad. And she's a queen because she is connected to all that is. And she is filled with incredible gratitude for what my life is. And the toad, well, Jill Bolte Taylor tends to be a tad bit goofy at times. And I live on a lily pad, my lily pad called Brainwaves. That was a lot. I realized that was a lot. And you have this absolutely magnificent brain inside of your head, 4 absolutely beautiful characters. And I look forward to your experience with your 4 characters in whole brain living. Thank you. And thank you, Hay House, for working with me so well to get this to the world. Enjoy.